You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, an American student abroad is accused of murdering her roommate. She struggles to prove her innocence to an Italian jury and to the world. We'll discuss the Hulu series, The Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and the love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Also with us, private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of The Final Curtain, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca.
And finally, our captain of all things cynical, author of the City Trilogy, host of Rip Current, More Like Ancient Phalians, Strange Arrivals, and our Patreon book club podcast, Toby Ball. Hi, Toby.
Hey, Rebecca.
So, Kevin?
Yes.
What's going on the next program on Crime Writers On?
So on Thursday, we're going to do a review of the podcast from Tenderfoot TV and iHeart Podcast. It's called Wisecrack.
All right. And Kevin, you want to make a final plug for your fundraiser?
Yeah, on Wednesday, it is the annual Walk a Mile in Their Shoes walkathon, and I've been getting a lot of great support from folks in Crime Writers On Nation. Just a quick reminder, we raise money for the Thrive Survivor Support Center, and this is for people in central New Hampshire who are experiencing domestic and intimate partner violence. It not only helps those crisis services, but it provides a bunch of other stuff for when that emergency is over, things like housing assistance and legal assistance and stuff like that. And so I'm going to strap on a pair of high heel shoes and I'm going to walk a mile, and I'm winking when I say it's a mile.
You're going to strap on.
I'm going to strap on, just like Amanda Knox. I'm going to strap on.
Hey, now.
What? What?
She didn't do that.
I'm just saying.
We didn't see any evidence of that.
She may as well have, according to
Menini.
But anyway, if you can you support me by going to crimewriterson.com, and there's a link to the fundraising page, and it'll stay open, so even if you're listening to this after Wednesday, you still can help out. But I'm getting close to my goal, and I really would like, again, to be the number one fundraiser, to get that three-peat, because if I do, it means, Laura, that Rebecca will rub my feet with lotion.
No.
Because you're a hard-working man, Kevin.
You bet.
Nope.
You bet, 100%.
I'll have a hot meal on the table when you get home.
Hot meal on the table, yes.
Guys, before we start talking about the show we're talking about, can I just show you something real quick?
Mm-hmm.
I want you guys to see how large I have the font set for on my Kindle Paperwhite.
It's big.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically like a billboard in my hand. It's so big. By the way, I love this device. I know we're not doing our Amazon picks right now, but I freaking love it.
I hear you, Rebecca. I cannot read even my phone without reading glasses anymore.
Same. And I have the font set on the biggest it will be.
Me too.
So
Have you tried squinting at all? I find that
I
helps.
sometimes hold it far away and look like I'm about 80.
Oh, my God.
I hold it down here and look like this. I know we've talked about this in the show before, but it's getting so much worse.
The tried and true method.
Someday I'm going to have to just end this podcast because I can't read the script anymore. It's just going to be like, I'm just going to be ad-libbing the whole time. Yeah.
Like you don't do that now.
I do that now. All right. Should we talk about the thing we are talking about?
Let's do it.
All right. Leading off.
We were just getting to know our young selves in this charmed ancient city. Blissfully unaware that something tragic was about to happen to poor Meredith. And that my every quirk would be used to brand me a monster.
While studying in Italy, Amanda Knox and her boyfriend are arrested for the brutal murder of her British roommate. Although they convicted another man for killing Meredith Kercher, authorities also try Knox, relying on a coerced confession and compromised DNA evidence.
It's completely fucking insane.
Are you accusing Raffaele?
No, I'm trying to make sense of it myself, and I can't because it does not make any sense.
Knox finds herself cartooned and slut-shamed in a Kafkaesque legal system. Despite an eventual acquittal, Knox remains vilified in the tabloids and pursued by prosecutors. Unable to fully clear her name and restart her life in America, she returns to Italy to confront the man who refuses to believe her innocence.
My prison would always be the false stories spun about me, all born out of the first fiction created in those early days of November 2007. I was never going to be free until I was free of that story.
Hulu's Hulu's dramatic series, The Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox, stars Grace Van Patten. Co-written by Knox and told largely from her point of view, the series recounts the many turns in the sensational case. It depicts its protagonist as powerless to control the events around her and her quest to reclaim her own narrative. Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about plot points from The Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. So Laura Bricker, early in this show, we see Amanda Knox discovering that something's very wrong in her home, calling the cops and then getting brought in with a bunch of other people. Pretty early on, the cops narrow in on her. And from what I've been able to research, by the way, this is very much obviously from Knox's point of view. They have a disclaimer about it at the end of the show, but a lot of the stuff in it is accurate to what happened, according to a lot of sources. So what we see depicted is an insane Italian interrogation. Thoughts?
How can this even be okay? Yeah, I'm watching this. I think what really came through, first of all, is how just clumsy her Italian was, how she spoke a little, but not a lot. And she certainly didn't understand people that were speaking quickly in fluent Italian.
I don't understand what the fuck is happening right now. I really don't.
Vaffanculo a te, Knox!
Patrick, vi siete incontrati.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Why are you hitting me?
Smettila di mentire.
Vaffanculo a te, Knox!
There's how many people? It's like interrogation by committee.
Including the translator is also interrogating her.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? You get a translator. The translator's there sometimes, not other times. And then just sort of, she goes off on her. But just the way that they surrounded her, she's in a foreign country. She doesn't know what's going on. She's trying to be forthcoming, trying to explain what happened from her perspective. And they're just not hearing it. They just immediately, and it came through, like I felt anxiety as I was watching this part of this show. Because I'm reading the subtitles and I'm thinking, God, I can't look away. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. Like her.
It's not a 2-screen watch.
No.
It's definitely not. I would leave the room to get a drink or something and Kevin was like, pause. And I'm like, it's fine. I can't follow it. Because it's all in Italian. And honestly, the thing that really impressed me about this show, most of anything, was the fact that it was a bilingual show. Like a lot of it is in Italian. Not a small amount of it is in Italian. It wasn't until like the final episode where they did that Hunt for Red October trick where she's speaking Italian and then they passes the guy and now she's speaking English and back. But I was expecting that and that's not what we got. And I'm really impressed, honestly, with the actors and everybody who was able to sort of flip back and forth. So Toby, the first few episodes of this show is a tale that we all should be familiar with at our age, but certainly younger people may not be. And it can be difficult to watch something where you know what the outcome is going to be. What did you think about the setup for the show, the first few episodes that show the murder, the aftermath, the arrest, the interrogation, all that stuff?
So I thought this was the strongest part of the show. As a matter of fact, I kind of liked the first 3 or 4 episodes, I guess. I can't remember exactly at what point the first trial ends, but I just thought they did a really good job of showing kind of Amanda's naivete, her sort of enjoying things without sort of realizing what the consequences would be, or just acting in ways that she didn't realize what the consequences would be. It's interesting that you said that some things have been kind of verified by people who were there, because I kind of just assumed that interrogation scene was like slightly made up just to show her confusion.
I'm sure it was heightened for sure. Yeah.
Like there weren't like actually 8 people screaming in her face at one time and slapping her in the head and stuff. It does a very effective job of sort of making even the viewer feel kind of disoriented and wondering what the hell's going on. There were a few things which I assume are true, but were sort of head scratchers, which is her mom says, get in touch with the embassy to Amanda right off the bat. And Amanda's like, oh, I'm just a witness or whatever. But then her mom shows up and she doesn't get in touch with the embassy herself,
right.
Which I was kind of like, and I think Amanda, she has to show why she was put in a situation where all these people thought she was guilty. And I think probably accurately, but make it seem like it was really, her fault was more of being completely unprepared for this, not knowing the language, being naive about the legal system. And that's what kind of ended up getting her entrapped, both by the Italian legal system and in the public's eye.
Right. So, Kevin, I'll say it. This isn't something I used to want to say on the podcast, but I'm just going to say it. I think anybody who thinks Amanda Knox is guilty is living in a wild world.
Yeah.
And there's one very specific reason why folks should really believe it's not her claim of innocence, it is her actual innocence. And why is that, Kevin?
Because they convicted somebody else. That's the thing. Like, if
with
you
a
ask,
lot of evidence.
You know, and I wasn't 100% clear on this until we saw the 2016 documentary from Netflix that we also reviewed way back when, which is, you know, a lot of people, when they think of the Amanda Knox case, they think that she and her boyfriend, that this was their plan, and they, you know, and it's like, did they or didn't they? But the whole idea that there was this whole other guy who came in and all of his DNA's there and he was convicted of it. But
he shit in the toilet.
Almost, right. I mean, there's no question that Rudy Gaudet did it, right? That he is the killer. I mean, he served 13 years. That's interesting. They're going to go for life for Amanda and Raphael. But that changes the whole way that you look at this. It's like, are you kidding me? Now they're shoehorning in these two other people into this crazy idea that it was a devil-worshipping threesome that somehow got bad. And I mean, like, the strongest point on the evidence, I think, was made in the last episode where Amanda's talking to Nene, and he's like,
it was a lens. It was bias.
Oh, please.
There's none of my DNA at the crime scene. You said I cleaned up traces of my own invisible DNA while leaving Gaudet's intact? That's impossible. That's bias.
The absence of that evidence is not evidence of your absence.
But it just kind of goes to show that, like, people are willing to believe. And by people, I'm talking not only about the press, but victims' families, and to some extent prosecutors too. They're willing to believe the story that they are told because they want to believe that. And they don't really have a reason to question whether or not that's inaccurate. And that's one of the reasons why this sticks. But I just think it's fucking bonkers. Also, you know, the fact the whole Italian legal system that you're guilty but you're acquitted, but now we're going to appeal your acquittal and all this other shit. And like, well, we're not going to give you the DNA evidence until the middle of the trial to look at. I mean, that's just all... That's fucking batshit, excuse me.
It is, in fact, kind of batshit. It's an interesting point you made, Kevin, because this is something that happens all the time in wrongful conviction cases. Mm-hmm. A portion of the public really wants to stick with the guilty narrative. They can't let it go, either because they don't have all the information or because they, for whatever reason, the story they've been told, and usually the victim's family sort of being at the center of that story, makes them feel more empathy for the victim's family skewed with false facts than looking at the actual truth and being able to admit that the truth isn't the story they've been told, right? So I feel awful for these victims' families, including the Kerchers, for being at the center of a campaign of guilt. It happens all the time. It's like a situation where prosecutors make the victim's family on their team. And it really bothers me because when you take a case to court, and I can't speak for Italy, but in the United States, it is the defendant's trial, not the victim's family's trial. It just isn't. And I know that it gets muddled, and I know there are heightened feelings, and I know that there's all this stuff, but this is what happens. This is what happens when a prosecutor is allowed to tell the first story, and that's the story that sticks. And of course the Kerchers believed it. Of course they did. Like, why wouldn't they, right? Because they live in England where the cops are pretty good at their jobs.
They also uncover overwhelming evidence that this guy was the killer. Right. But they're also trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we
then how is she involved?
Then how is she involved? She's involved. We know she's involved. She confessed.
Right.
And in 2007 or 2009, we certainly did not have the same understanding of false and coerced confessions that we do.
Yeah.
And it's not even that just that she confessed, but that she also tried to deflect to Patrick Lumumba. And again, I think that's obviously something she regrets, but that's just another kind of piece of data where if you think she's guilty, you're like, okay, so why is she throwing this crazy accusation out if it's not to somehow advantage herself? If you don't understand about false confessions and pressures that the police can put you under.
Absolutely. So, Laura, you made an observation in your notes that I'm glad you made because I was figuring out how I was going to say this without sounding like a horrible person. The Italian prison, as it's portrayed in this series, is not the worst place I've ever seen for someone to be incarcerated. Now, I'm not saying that anybody should be in prison wrongfully or anything like that. And of course, we did see a scene where they ripped a baby away from its mother, which was freaking horrible.
You mean the dormitory style?
It seemed more humane,
which is very European,
as prisons go, than what we have here. Did you agree, Laura?
Yeah, as somebody that goes in prisons and jails, I was in a jail just yesterday on a regular basis.
Visiting everybody.
Visiting. I got stuck in the elevator yesterday. They're like, do you want to take the stairs? I'm like, yes, because I want to leave. So, yeah, I'm watching this. And first I'm like, okay, they're not wearing prison uniforms. They're just wearing clothes. Oh, look, They have their own bedding in here. Oh, look, they're just hanging. Oh, wait, there's a TV directly in her cell. She can just wander on down to the priest's office and chat with him whenever she wants. I was like, I mean, yeah, obviously the guy that was the superintendent that was like spying on her and everything, I'm like, he's a dick. But otherwise, I was like, okay, we've watched other documentaries where people have been in foreign jails where it's been like, wow, this is really rough. This one, I was like, well, maybe they get espresso. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's still jail.
I was just going to say, but it's her depiction of it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
As it goes on, I have less and less confidence that it is accurate. I also don't think that the way they separate children from their parents are to essentially jump them on the prison yard and pull the kid away surrounded by all that doesn't read as being the way that you would do something like that. If it's something you had to do again, there's so many kids that they have to take away at some point that doing it in the midst of a huge crowd of other inmates seems like kind of a crazy way to do it. Anyway.
Yeah. So, Kevin, what do you think about our prosecutor? What do they call him? Mia
Prosecutore.
Miss Prosecutore.
Yes.
Okay, interesting guy, Magnini. The portrait of him was interesting. And we were talking a little bit off air about the whole Monster of Florence case, which he figures prominently into. And they make a reference of it when we first meet him. And this is a guy who is really much more of a religious zealot than is portrayed here. However, he does start off very much as a two-dimensional character, just as Amanda was. But I think they do it intentionally here in order to rectify that at the end.
Amanda, that was my approximation of the crime. An investigator must painstakingly reconstruct a past event which he didn't observe.
Yeah, through evidence, I would hope.
This is where you think you know, but you don't know, okay? Initially, an investigator is guided by his reasoning, but also by hypothesis that the crime scene suggests to him. And he must follow his hypothesis.
And one thing I want to mention is they are actually friends in real life now, the two of them. They have a relationship. I don't think they're besties, but they do actually have a relationship, if you can believe it.
I kind of can. Because, this was a huge moment in both of their lives. It is kind of, they're going to be the first sentence in each other's obituaries, right? What happened to them. And we should talk about the final episode, sort of like how everything sort of like comes together and how this is resolved narratively and maybe more, philosophically. When you are that intrinsically bound together as rivals, right? There is that whole Batman Joker synergy going back and forth. Like, it's even stronger, though, when you are allies, like the four of us on Patreon, how we come together.
Just like that, Kevin.
And we make all sorts of great stuff for the benefit of our loving listeners.
Are we in the business section?
It's the business section.
Oh, great.
For folks who go to patreon.com/partners in crime media, they get to support us to keep these podcasts going. And you get all sorts of exclusive content at the leading off level. It includes things like Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast, our Married with podcast where we give marriage advice. We have a really great question this month from a listener who wonders whether or not they should resume communications with dad, even though they're estranged from mom. And in another, Rebecca's Readathon, where we continue to find interesting things about the Karen Reed case, and our Crime Writers On after show. I'm not going to spoil it.
Don't spoil it.
We have a very big announcement.
Huge.
Regarding one of the four of us making a big life-changing decision. So you're going to we're not going to tell you.
Am I pregnant? No, I'm just kidding.
No, Laura Bricker.
Kevin's single.
Oh my God. Okay. Enough. Silencio.
Okay.
Basta. Right. Okay. That's what I learned.
Innocente.
Someone's innocente. If you join us at the Bricker scale level, you get an additional podcast. It's Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast, in which Laura Bricker solves mysteries, or at least mysteries to her, in her quaint AF town of Exeter, New Hampshire, like who the fuck has it in for the Peppermint Patty Bandit? And she gets to the bottom of it, we think. If you join us at the Let's Do What We Do level, you get episodes of Crime Writers On early and ad-free. And if you're a deep diver, not only do you get all of that, but you also get to take part and watch Toby record the deep dive. Toby, on the last deep dive, you had Sarah Carradine and Julie Millard talking about a great book. What was it?
It was The Adversary by Emmanuel Carrere. I don't know if we all agreed that it was a great book, but it was definitely interesting. It's basically like when you see those movies, every once in a while comes out about a guy who just like pretends to go to his job, but actually he doesn't have a job and he's just like killing time year after year after year.
Oh, he's a podcaster.
Yeah, exactly. This is like a real story about that, but it's grim, man. It's grim. And it kind of shows that like when you're actually sort of living that lie, it's like very nihilistic and there's only a few ways that it can end and none of them are very happy.
So our Patreon, you'll get at least 20 different episodes of different things each month. And not only do you get great value, but you're a supporting member here of the Crime Writers on Nation. You're keeping our podcast going. And unless we ask you to do it, you're not going to be able to do it. And that's why we're able to continue on giving you all this great content.
So, Kevin, does thus end our business section?
Thus ends the business section.
All right, let's fade that music out. So, Toby, before the business section, we were talking about Mignini, the prosecutore. What are your thoughts about this guy as portrayed and in real life?
You know, I kind of feel like the Amanda Knox stuff is like sort of B minus Mignini. If you really want the full on experience, you got to do the Monster of Florence because he's completely batshit. He, I think, was born in the wrong century. Like he would have been great in the Inquisition, where he could just have these sort of religious insights on people based on nothing other than just his thoughts and then be able to torture them until they confessed. It seems like in some ways like he tries to do that to the extent that he can in the current Italian legal situation, context. But I thought the actor did a pretty good job. I mean, he does come across as being fairly insufferable. In the Amanda Knox documentary that we saw, I kind of feel like you get more of a sense of his just being absolutely so certain of himself at all times, and that his insights are probably more powerful than actual evidence or things people can deduce from that evidence. So in that way, he seems a little toned down in this, but yeah, I mean, he's a buffoon.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking, and I guess it's a Wikipedia search away, but it's like, what did this guy do that was so awesome in the beginning of his career that's allowed him to just be involved in all these really, really high profile cases, which he seems to just completely fuck up right and left.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really investigate, you know, so people bring him like clues and he like thinks about it and comes up with some scenario that kind of fits his preconceived prejudices. And that's how he's going about it.
Right. He is kind of there from the beginning though. Like he went to the crime scene. He's like, what's that? What's that? And he's able to draw conclusions and it's like, it's wild.
He thinks he's freaking Sherlock Holmes though.
Yeah.
And that's not how you actually solve crimes. You know,
that's true. Unless you're Sherlock Holmes, right?
Yeah. Unless you're Sherlock Holmes, but he's not.
So, Laura, this series is in 3 distinct parts. There is the before the trial and during the trial, the sort of procedural stuff that happens after the trial and her getting home and all that, and then the coda at the end. What did you think about the structure of this?
So I think the beginning worked for me. I thought it was interesting. I'm like, clearly this is told from her perspective. I was curious to see how it was going to go, knowing that she teamed up with Monica Lewinsky on this. I thought that was a very interesting combination and backstory to how this came to life. And then we get to like this muddle in the middle. And like, as soon as, you know, the trial's over and she's home, I was just like, it just drags for me. And I felt like we need to get to 8 episodes. So we're going to put all of this in here. I think that the coda part where we see what happened after she's got her, you know, baby, her husband and everything. And she goes to see the prosecutor. And you see about this ongoing relationship that she's had with the priest, which I think was one of the more interesting parts of this, that relationship that she had when she's, you know, a self-described atheist, but that seems to be her source of support and really the only source of humanity that she has for a long time. So I felt like beginning strong, kind of like the ending. The middle, I was like, take it or leave it. But I felt like I would have liked to know a little bit more about her in a way that brought her to life. Because she's an odd person, like regardless, and that doesn't mean she's guilty. That doesn't mean anything, but it's just some of her mannerisms are odd. She can kind of rub people the wrong way.
By the time I was 6, I learned I disliked fading into the background. Freak. I do like to live in my own imagination.
she kind of talks about that in the beginning a little bit, but I feel like in kind of reconciling her story, instead of this muddle in the middle, I would have liked to have a little bit more three-dimensional about her. So that middle section for me just didn't work. I think there were other ways that could have made the story stronger, other things they could have done there. And, that part just kind of dragged.
Yeah, I think you're right, Laura, about that they could have leaned a little more into explaining her foibles, right? Her strangeness. People have speculated online that she might be on the autism spectrum someplace because of her mannerisms and like some of the things that she did. She's never said anything about whether she has a diagnosis or what. But again, it's sort of like we have to ascribe certain things to people's foibles or their weirdness or whatever, right? And she points this out in the beginning in this prologue that sort of all of those things, all of her failings and any kind of weirdness ends up being put through this lens where it shows a diabolical angle to it, right? That you're embracing your boyfriend or whatever, and you're having, a kiss or two, or all of that just seems like very tone deaf until you sort of like watch the whole thing and you see like, that they weren't making out. They sort of, all the other body language was about stress and whatnot. But all those eccentricities, like you just know, come back to bite her because people want to see that either from a prosecutorial standpoint, from a tabloid standpoint. Like in the beginning, you're like, oh, I was like, well, there's Chekhov's vibrator. When they hand it to her, like, that's going to be a problem later on. I forgot all about that. But, she does.
Which is so funny.
Yeah. But I thought that they could have explored that a little more as far as the character development, other than just sort of stating it. Like, they could have shown how that comes into play a little more explicitly.
So, ladies, just so you know, if you own a vibrator, which you probably all do, that means you could have murdered somebody. 100%.
Only if it's 10 centimeters.
Yeah. It's
only
a little
if it's
one.
the rabbit or whatever this one was.
So, Toby, one person who often gets lost in the Amanda Knox story is the other person who was convicted alongside her, Raffaella Sollecito. There's a whole episode that sort of frames his story. And again, another thing that I know is that in real life, Raffaella and Amanda have remained close friends and they are still in contact. And I think it was probably important to her to put a Raffaella-centric episode in here. What did you think about that episode?
It was boring as fuck.
Okay.
No, I kind of felt like after the first trial and she goes to jail and it's just, you see the days passing by and stuff. It resembled what I would expect like a Hallmark movie to be like. Not that I've ever seen one, but this is sort of my impression of what it would be like.
From the commercials?
Yeah, I just kind of felt like it was too whitewashed for me in a lot of ways. Like you see the time passing by, but there's like this like you go girl moment where she's like, I'm taking things over. And she like goes and starts making demands of the warden. And like, it's basically like, you can take me back to my cell now.
You were a 20-year-old kid in a foreign country being questioned in the language you didn't understand.
People have to know about this, Grace, that this is something they do. Like, this is real. They do this. This could help with my appeal. What?
You got your cojones back.
And then there's this scene where she's finally freed and like the entire prison is like going bananas and chanting her name and stuff. And I'm like,
if that happened, that's wild.
Is that real? Because, I would think that a bunch of Italian criminal women like seeing this like young American princess who's been getting all this press attention and stuff wouldn't be like 100% in her corner to that degree. So I found that bad. And the one they just had with Raffaele, I kind of felt like with almost all the Italian characters, they were all pretty one-dimensional. Maybe Magnini give a little bit, but like the other cops, like there's one woman who just essentially just scowls the whole time or is glaring.
The second chair at the trial, that lady, she's so mean.
She's mean. And there's the other one who's just like get up and like say stuff and be frustrated and pissed off.
Yes.
And then there was the guy who's bald with a beard who's kind of macho, but it's kind of takes the backseat to the women. And then there's the guy who looks like the library cop from Seinfeld who like gets in her face at one point during the interrogation, but they're all just mean as hell.
Yeah. And then there's the hot one.
And there's the hot one who's like, can you show me some yoga poses? Like, and it's just like,
he still lives with his mom.
It's like, what the fuck is going on? And so anyway, Raffaele just comes off as being this kind of like like he's at least, maybe he's two-dimensional. He's not particularly assertive or anything. I mean, he seems like kind of a schlub, but he feels as though even though he's only known Amanda for like 8 days, like he has to be her protector somehow. Although, as we find out, he's always felt that way because his mom got divorced and he was the one who felt like he had to take care of her. So
and that's what made him horny.
I mean, the whole thing just felt really like it went from being this kind of interesting, like, oh, okay, like this is kind of helping me understand like what it was like to be in her situation, to something that was just completely different, which was sort of like this sort of rose tinted glasses version of her time in jail and afterwards, and going head to head against the great prosecutor and facing him down and stuff. And it didn't read to me as being accurate. And it really seemed as though it sort of became like a PR exercise for her rather than like a show that I would actually want to watch.
But, we'll talk a little more about this in the next review about Wisecrack. But I would push back on the idea of, does that matter? Whether or not she got high fives when she left or everybody was cheering, it's not a documentary. So my thing is, does it work narratively? Maybe it's over the top and that's why it is.
Kevin.
But it's also dramatic license to what extent? So, I mean, we know this is Amanda Knox's point of view. She co-wrote some of this. She co-wrote that
based on her books.
Based on her books, right? As far as how much slack she's going to cut the other people, the other characters, it's just how much she wants to do it, right? They're not going to earn it without her, without her say so. But the whole idea about how accurate does this need to be in order for us to accept it as a drama? I think if it feels unreasonable, like unrealistic, that's one thing. But as far as like, how much do we want to demand that this part happen, this dialogue happen? Like there's a disclaimer at the end. I'm just saying that I think that like we might give it some grace for what it is if it works narratively.
Laura, final question to you. We see what comes in at court, what's not allowed in at court. Would you, after watching this, be excited to go on trial for a crime in Italy?
Yeah, I would be so excited that if I went on trial in Italy, part of the evidence that would be used against me is if I cleaned the toilet after I went number 2 with brush, or if I had a vibrator, or if I brought boys home, or whatever. I could not believe.
Or if you clean the vibrator with the brush.
Right. And I think you'd want to bring men home, Laura, at this stage.
Yeah, I want to. Well, I mean, who knows? But I couldn't believe the leeway with what was allowed to come in as relevant when I'm thinking about just how careful our system is, and cases I've been involved with where they're like, okay, we're going to file a motion so that none of this can come in because this is prejudicial, because this is not related to the charges in this case. Anything goes there. But also that you can just get up when you're the defendant and just start talking in the middle of the trial. So the first one, I don't know about you guys, I cringed when she got up and started defending the vibrator as being a joke. And it's an American thing. It's a joke. And I'm just like, oh, stop talking, stop talking, stop talking. But every witness getting up, being able to just kind of run on at the mouth about whatever strikes their fancy.
Yeah. I like how lawyers argue with each other during testimony. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah. I was glad at least when they brought the expert in about that knife. And I was like, oh, thank God. I was watching that. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Also, how they let you go just like hug your family in the middle of court and stuff.
Yeah.
Again,
well,
they don't let you do that in the courts I go into.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out The Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox? It's an 8-part scripted series on Hulu. Laura Bricker, thumbs up or thumbs down for The Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox?
I am going mild thumbs up on this one. In the beginning, the first episode, I did struggle with some of the narration techniques where we had Amanda narrating with kind of like this polka music thing happening, and that kind of didn't really necessarily fit the kind of overall feeling of this type of a story for me. It was a little too quirky. I think there were some parts of this that I thought were really interesting that really illustrated the issues with the Italian justice system and what happened to her, and really made you feel like what she would have felt like when she was going through this process. Like, I felt anxiety on her behalf watching it. And I think the ending was interesting to see some of the characters and the people that she had relationships with either the priest that she became very close with, or even the prosecutor, and sort of their finale of reuniting and what happens. I thought those parts were interesting. I think there were parts of this for me that kind of dragged and could have been condensed. But again, we talk about that a lot. It's 8 episodes. It could have been 6. So mild thumbs up for me.
Toby Ball, thumbs up or thumbs down for The Twisted Tale of Amanda Knox?
I'm a thumbs down, and I'll be brief. I thought the first 3 episodes, or 3 or 4 episodes, were pretty effective in showing just the confusion and naivete and just like how, from Amanda's perspective, she got into the situation she did. The bad decisions she made, sort of the wrong assumptions. After the first trial and for the entire rest of the thing, to me, it was basically just a PR thing. I didn't like it. I thought it was bad. It was boring. I don't think she got across, unless I am just completely confused about the way the world works, how things went in the same way that the first part of it did. So anyway, good first 3 episodes, and I thought it fell off a cliff, so I'm a thumbs down.
Kevin Flynn.
Yeah, I'm going thumbs up on this. I actually really liked it. I thought it was enlightening, and I thought it was entertaining. It certainly brought a point of view that we haven't seen in this media yet, which is, told from literally Amanda's point of view. She is a, executive producer and a writer on this series, so you're going to have to take it with a grain of salt. There are people in the world that will just never buy her innocence, even though somebody else was convicted of killing Meredith.
With tons of evidence.
With tons of evidence and, discredited DNA evidence. I get that there are some people that are just like not going to be there and want to accept it. But for something that we thought we know a lot about, I thought it was really interesting to get the perspective of this character and sort of post-acquittal, what her life was like and the challenges of claiming your own story when the world won't believe you. I think that Grace Van Patten did a really great job. She did a great job emoting in a second language than, a lot of other actresses do in their first. And
her real-life sister played her sister.
Her real-life sister played her sister. Good job looking like each other. We appreciate that. It's a good study in sort of what makes people believe different stories and how are you able to claim your own narrative when it's being defined for you. And for those reasons, and because I thought that it went along and made it very entertaining, I'm a thumbs up.
I'm a thumbs sideways. I kind of lean toward Toby in that I found some of these episodes very difficult to watch and other episodes really compelling. And so that's always problematic. It's funny because Amanda Knox knows, I saw her on Blue Sky earlier today, and she knows that there are people in the world who will always think she's guilty no matter what. And that's she says that. She's out there with it. So why not make a thing that's totally from your perspective? Why not, right? Because there's like 25% of the British population whose minds are never going to change. There are these people who freaking hate women and believe that she did it because she's a quote slut that are never going to change their mind. So why not make a thing that is 100% your perspective and that is your take? Why not? Why not do it? But I would just say if you're going to do it, make it more consistent, make it a little more concise. Sharon Horgan, who I normally love, really should not be casted as an American, in my opinion. She's not great with the old accent, a little bit of Nicole Kidman vibes there. But there were, again, parts of this that I did find compelling. I found the trial stuff compelling. I found when she immediately returned home, I wish we had seen a little bit more of the outside world. We only got Chris Cuomo as the one exemplar interview that we saw, which was weird because there's a lot of other media around Amanda Knox that I think it would have been interesting at the end too, to have like a real life montage of people on the street saying what they think, whether or not she did it or not, because people are nuts around this case. And by the way, if you're listening to this podcast and you normally agree with me, but you feel like adding me because she made this, so therefore it's biased, but you think she's guilty, just don't. You're not going to change your mind. You're not going to change my mind. She definitely didn't do it. That's where it lands. And we usually don't talk about this case on this show for that reason, but we are talking about it now. So I'm just going to say she definitely didn't do it. That's not my opinion. That's what happened. So I'm a thumb sideways for this series. Now it's time for my favorite part of the podcast, a little something I like to call the Crime of the Week.
Crime of the Week!
They say you can't outrun the law and you can't outrun a horse. Mounted police officers in Lubbock, Texas stopped a man they suspected of carrying drugs. When asked to turn out his pockets, the guy refused. That's when one of the cops, whose honest to God's name is William Trotter, made the joke that he was riding a narcotics-smelling horse. Faster than you can say giddy up, the man bolted. In what otherwise might have been an exhausting foot chase, the mounted cops were easily able to catch up to their suspect. In case you don't know, you don't have to show police what's in your pockets just because they ask you, and there are no such thing as drug-sniffing horses. So, panel, the Lubbock Police Department seems to be giving more responsibility to their equine counterparts. What new jobs will this department give its horses? Laura Bricker.
They're going to go on some coffee and donut runs, I think. Mosey on down to the local shop and balance it all on the way back as they're riding.
Wow. What do you think, Toby? What new jobs will this department give its horses?
Train a young Laura Bricker on how to scam Vermont horse buyers.
Oh, very good.
Wow, good.
What do you think, Kevin? What new jobs will this department give its horses?
I just want to see the horse try to fingerprint somebody.
Yeah.
I think that would be
with its
great.
giant hooves?
Yep.
Here, let me pick up your hand with my giant hooves.
Clunk, clunk. Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Laura Bricker, if folks want to follow you online, how can they follow you on social media?
You can find me at Laura Bricker on Blue Sky and Instagram.
What about you, Toby?
At TobyBallNH on Blue Sky and at TobyBall603 on Instagram.
Kevin Flynn.
I'm a Kevin P. Flynn.
You can find me everywhere, including Blue Sky at Reb Lavoie. You can follow the show everywhere at Crime Writers On. That includes YouTube, Instagram, and of course, TikTok. I encourage you to join our incredible community in our official Crime Writers On Facebook group. Find our page and a link there to join the group. Get everything we make on Patreon at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia. Our theme song was composed and performed by Ty Gibbons, and our editor is the terrific New York resident now, Livy Burdett. The EP of this show is Kevin Flynn. This show was recorded in Studio C, the closet in our New Hampshire basement, where we also sometimes forget to flush that number 2. I mean, who does it, right?
That's you.
No,
That's
it's
all
not.
you.
No.
It's all you.
No.
DNA.
On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later.
By the way, the Woman in Cabin 10 book was so fucking bad.
It's horrible.
Oh, that's okay.
It's
Super.
horrible. I just read the sequel because I'm a
What?
completist. I listened to the sequel. I'm a completist. I'll listen to anything. All of my listening is trashy. All of it. It's great.